Call a meeting of the Bay County Veterans Affairs Committee to order on 10/18/2022, Commission Chambers. Roll call. So let's see, I guess our secretary will be doing the roll call.
Oh, Big Ick.
Here.
Stewart here. Eckstein here. Lazarus
Here.
and Burgundy here.
Until Mr. Barsha appoints a fill-in person.
I'll be, yes, I'll be sort of overseeing the Department of Veterans Affairs as far as the staff. We have a tremendous staff and they don't need really very much oversight. But the animal shelter as well. Craig, as you know, I think most of you heard, accepted a position as Essexville City Manager. And you can't blame Craig for that. We're going to miss him. But it's an opportunity that doesn't come around too long for a big pay raise. And he's got 3 children and his spouse, and they live in Essexville. So it's a great thing for him. But I was hoping to maybe reorganize the 2 departments and come January. We'll see what happens with the animal shelter millage. Because as you know, Vaughn, the county board has refused to pay for a full-time manager. So Craig was spending most of his time overseeing the animal shelter. And Mike Halstead, previous to that, would spend a couple of hours a day, but was unavailable for the media and was not involved in adoption or placement of animals. So going to no-kill, we need kind of hands-on management. So Liv is sort of filling in the day-to-day operations, and then we speak daily. And of course, Gary and Leonard has been doing a great job, as we'll hear probably later, and of course Mark. They're pretty darn self-sufficient in terms of what they're doing, but when questions arise or an issue arises, we talk regularly. So I'll continue to oversee that and then look at what kind of reorganization makes sense, especially if an animal shelter millage passes, we could get a full-time manager out there.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh, that'd be nice.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Minutes from 7/19/2022.
I make a motion, we accept the minutes as read.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Citizen input. I asked my wife to speak, but she declined back there. That's my wife Margie, by the way. She's been dealing with veterans all her lives, so thank you.
Especially one veteran in particular.
Yes, if it wouldn't have been for the military, we wouldn't have met. As I met while I was in the service, so serendipity, or it just happened. Any petitions or communications? I guess I have, this is sort of a communication. This is the Veterans Affairs grant. Oh, do you have that available to you? This is the official document, so it doesn't look like they make copies. So we've been approved for $76,903.71 from the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. We have to sign this. We got another month to get the sign.
It's a big rig.
And we get a direct payment of $50,000, and then any of the remainder will be paid on a reimbursement basis. So it's still got Craig's name on here, so we'll have to get that corrected. And we've done this before, so they've got the system set up
Japanese
for the funding and stuff.
to the caves.
So I'm not sure, they've been talking about changing the requirements or what you can do, restrictions on this. And we probably need to have it looked through again, reread it and make sure we're following the guidelines, that we use the money appropriately. And I don't know, I can't remember if Craig had any suggestions.
Finance will be helping as well.
Yeah.
With that, but I believe the 50,000 straight up grant.
Yeah.
And whatever we want to spend, and then we'll determine.
I know we've used it to fund the hours for the, expand the hours, so I guess we could still use some of that too if we need it in the other funding. So we'll have to take a look at that. Plus we have some suggestions that fit into the guidelines, so might try to get they have a printout here of what the guidelines are. Of course, it's sort of in legalese material, so that might be something for our attorney to look at also to make sure we're following the guidelines. So I guess we could use a motion to receive this grant from the state, but we need to sign it and get it back to them. So if you are all okay with accepting the grant of $76,903.71 from MVAA, I would look for a resolution or a motion.
I'd like to move that we accept the proposed grant.
I second it.
Second.
76,000,
Discussion?
right?
Yeah, if you have some ideas that might fit in the guidelines, then we can maybe get those out to everybody so we know what we might want to be doing with it once we have something set up already. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Received. I've got update on Veterans Cemetery project, so that was Mr. Norman, I believe. I got his boots on and been out there in the rain and the mud and
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, you have the printouts in front of you for the project, 6,028 veterans. I did 29 cemeteries, 3 or 4 to go. Floral Gardens was the most, and I knew it would be. If you've ever been there, it's about 20 football fields, 1,444. Oak Ridge was up there, Calvary's up there, as we expected. St. Stanislaus surprised me, was almost 1,000.
That is one.
I walked the cemetery and looked at every tombstone marker. There are some to go. They're off Ridge Road. But these were the ones I completed, 29 out of 32. I think 6,000 is a fine number. Maybe 6,000 more than we had. Does anyone have any questions?
Floral gardens, we don't put flags down on the grave sites at floral gardens.
I don't
The
know.
veterans, they usually have the flags hanging, going down the parkway.
Floral Gardens actually does the flags. They have the Boy Scout troop goes out there, and they do the flags themselves.
Okay, because
They buy them.
I didn't see them last year, so.
Yeah, they do them, they have the scouts out there, and you gotta put a little sticker on the headstone that says veteran. And those stickers don't weather very well. So,
Okay.
out of those 1,444, I personally go out and do 4, which is my dad and my 3 uncles. And, yeah, there's a whole bunch of veterans out there.
Mr. Marshall.
Down on one end, you got the veterans area, don't you? On the west end, isn't that a veterans?
In addition
Yeah.
to the statistical data, what I try to do, and it was really a lot of fun, was I broke the cemetery into sections, grids, and it would help people when they look at the Excel printouts. It would show what part of the cemetery they might be at. Especially the big cemeteries, I was able to do that. Some of the smaller ones, as you walk into it, and Mr. Begic, I think, the one we were talking about, yours, has a road.
Yeah.
And I would have divided that by south of the road, north of the road. A lot of that. But it helps the person kind of drill down the location. of where that might be. And I should point out, this is something cemeteries don't always do. They have the person's name perhaps, but it might not say they're a veteran. These are verified 6,028 veterans. Are there more? Yes. Are there more in the cemeteries I was at? Probably.
National Guard. I got that question about National Guard people. So if they're not been in active duty, they have to be on active duty to qualify to receive a flag or a marker. I guess the question has come up. I know there are several. We had a large contingent in our area that were in National Guard, like after World War II, but never really did active duty. Now some went to Detroit in the 80s for the riots in Detroit. So I'm not sure what the official. I've heard the ruling is that they have to have been called up or been on duty to qualify to be, considered as a full-fledged veteran.
I think
different.
they're supposed to have been on Title 10 orders, which is a national orders.
Yeah. Some of our church members have asked me about that, and so I tried to research and see if they were actually ever on active duty, and a lot of them were not on active duty.
No, I think the Detroit riots, the governor called those guys up, and that's not Title 10 orders.
They go to Grayling, they went to Camp Grayling 2 weeks every year, and they had a little training off and on in between, but that was no active duty per se. Our cemetery, by the way, is in Frankenless Township. We're just over the border. Hotchkiss is the cutoff, so we're about a half a mile into Frankenless Township.
Did I get that right?
You had Monitor on here. We're close to Monitor, but not quite.
Right across the road.
Yeah, Hotchkiss.
I followed the master sheet on that.
Yeah,
It is awful close.
it is. And I think there's more than 40, but I'm going to do some research on it and try to get a number for you. Yeah.
We're calling right now 32 for sure, and I would not have a problem with saying 33. I think St. Pat's Cemetery, the old cemetery and the new cemetery qualify for 2, because boy, are they big.
That's big.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
And here's just an example. My dad was World War II, and he's buried at Floral Gardens, but he doesn't have a service headstone on his grave. He does have one in the short circle of, around.
I got them.
You got him off the circle.
275 off that circle.
Yeah, okay, because
I
a
got
lot of those guys don't have military headstones. That's their military headstone on the circle.
Mr. Bowersock foxed me out on that. He told me the roads at Floral Gardens,
Yeah,
if you look at the roads,
Yeah.
there's a ton of them. I'll tell you, they're 4 or 5 deep.
right. Yeah,
But I got the entire circle.
okay, good.
I know at St. Pat's Cemetery, my father-in-law was a World War II vet, and he doesn't have a veteran stone or marker.
Military headstones
But
around.
he's registered here with his DD 214. Do you check them also?
I don't know.
It's different.
Okay.
Just got a regular.
There's something about that with the funeral home, and if you contact the Veterans Department first, you get the plaque.
Registered here in the Bay County building.
The federal government pays for those plaques, and
Right.
Yeah.
so through the VA, they will supply those.
But the ones that don't have them and are veterans, nobody will put the flag there unless you know of them personally. But all the DD 214s, if they handed them into the county, he could go check them also.
Good. I think typically it's requested, some families don't want them.
Okay.
Wonder why someone never contacted the VA about was it your grandfather?
Pardon?
Was he your grandfather?
Yeah, father-in-law.
Father-in-law?
Yeah, he was
Okay.
in Normandy, so, but he has no marker.
You know, when I was served in Congress, it was
Yeah, I mean-
routinely, you know, we'd
Could apply
Get that
for
done.
one.
It used to be $400, I think, for the brass plaque. Might be a little more now, but they're covered. Gary, do you think you could do a little checking for Marilyn and see how we get a plaque on her father-in-law's grave?
They also
Typically,
have a-
it's,
I'm sorry, sir.
oh no, typically it's a fairly easy process, but
They also have a newer plaque that they've gone to, and I like it. It goes on the back of a monument, a tombstone, much smaller than the ones that are on the ground, but they really stand out, and you're not going to get the crabgrass and all that, where you can't even read the dates of birth and death, and they do stand out.
oh, good.
It's a sharp plaque
It's on the stone? On the back of the stone?
on the back of the stone.
Okay. Oh, I haven't seen one.
I came across maybe 50 of them.
Nice.
Very nice. And some of these veterans that I've identified, I literally read the tombstones, and it would have the information that that person served in this engagement, the dates and all that. They're veterans. They just didn't have the traditional thing. So some of that stuff is on here too. Not a lot, but maybe a couple hundred.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a lot of people didn't know that that was available to them.
I think you're right.
Family didn't know, or the funeral home or somebody didn't tell them, so.
In addition to what I believe Mr. Barsha said was, I do know a lady that was irate that they had a veteran plaque at the foot of the grave. She did not want that. They didn't request it and they were upset. So I guess it takes all kinds.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many folks that, you know, I think sometimes depending on the veteran's experience, if they were engaged in war, they kind of want to forget that chapter of their life. And so often after that veteran was deceased, the family would contact my office to see if they could get their medals issued to the family, and we did. On numerous occasions, we used to have General Dick DeMera usually present them on my behalf during the week at various veteran services, but you know, a lot of some veterans just said, I don't want to discuss it, and so over and behind me, and then to the family, it meant a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
And some of them had some really outstanding awards, you know, and great medals, so.
What about the vaults? You check them?
No.
No.
Well, no, wait a minute. A few of the cemeteries, as you go in, have large walls. And within that wall, it's not really a vault, but it's a bunch of plaques. Maybe a couple hundred. Oak Ridge has one. It's huge. It's naval. I think
It's right after you come in the main gate,
right there on your right. It's right by the veterans section.
right by the American Legion section.
Yep.
Because I know some veterans that are in the vaults at St. Pat's Cemetery, but I don't know if there's a marker on the vaults that they're a veteran.
I don't know. I don't know about the cremation aspect of it.
Okay.
I did come across one veteran on the tombstone. It had the information, and then it said buried at sea. And then it had a stone and a monument listed as a vet here in Bay County. A lot of these veterans we're talking about, especially Civil War, Spanish-American War, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Ohio, a lot of them from there, for whatever reason, are buried in Bay County.
I was told because of the logging industry.
Pardon me,
I
sir?
was told because of the logging industry, I asked that question, Soldiers Rest, somebody from Pennsylvania, so they came here because the logging industry was so big and they came to do physical work. That's the gentleman that takes care of the cemetery. Said that that's why there's so many from out of state up here. Because the logging industry, probably later on, the automobile industry.
And early shipbuilding too.
Yeah.
The same with our Soldiers Rest at Oak Ridge.
Yeah. Jobs,
Yeah, out of state.
shipbuilding, yeah, makes sense. Well, that's neat.
Any other questions?
Just one comment.
Yep.
Just wanted to thank Leonard and Lenny for his absolutely phenomenal work in identifying these veterans' graves. And Lenny, thank you, and let's talk, and hopefully there's some other projects maybe in the future we can think about engaging on too when you complete this assignment. But thank you for your dedication and working with Gary and Mark and all of that hard work. You've been out there walking those cemeteries, and
You're welcome,
believe me,
sir.
the families and those of us who appreciate veterans appreciate you and what you've done. So
Thank you.
Years to come.
Thank you. Mike?
Okay, are we going to assume this is end state, or do we need to go a step further? Do we need to open this up with that list you have to the public and say, take a look at this, and if your loved one isn't on here, let us know?
that would be a great idea, Mike.
Website,
Yes.
post it.
Yeah, a website, and, then they can call the office and say, hey, my Uncle Joe is buried in Oak Ridge, and he's not on this list.
We want a complete list, but there are inevitably some that will fall through
We're
the
gonna
cracks.
miss, yeah, you're gonna miss them, that's all there is to it.
What does a family do to verify if we can't find,
Yeah, how do they verify?
how do they verify?
I don't know, I think we'd have to come up with a recommendation, because a lot of people aren't gonna have a DD 214 for somebody that's passed away quite a while ago.
I mean, maybe even a photograph or something.
Yeah, that would work.
And maybe Senator Peters or Congressman Kildee, Senator Peters is on Armed Services. If we have a name, maybe our congressional delegation and representatives can check on dates of service and check that name with military records, and even without the form, we may be able to have them honored as a vet and
Now, recent-
on our master list.
Gary, if I'm not mistaken, recent ones, you guys can go online. If they were discharged in Michigan, you can check their service dates, can't you?
Well, we can get with Lansing.
Yeah, exactly.
We can get down there if we can't locate them here, if they don't have them filed. That's the first avenue we go to, is down in Lansing, see if they can check for it.
Yeah. Because for a while, a lot of guys didn't file them here at the county.
I do know, talking to Mark, going forward, the Microsoft Excel, it's a sweet thing to have, because what he's going to be able to do, and Gary, of course, when somebody passes away and they get the information from the funeral home,
Log it in.
guess where it's going to go?
Yeah.
On the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
The funeral home will give us the information. The cemeteries, maybe not.
Yep. Sounds good.
So that's really the key.
Keep it
This is
current.
a nice start, but you have to add to it and keep up with it.
Gotta be updated
There are
regularly.
individuals who are interned or buried other than where they were at the funeral home.
Yes,
So somebody might be shown in Lansing but buried in Bay County.
yes. St. Joe's Cemetery, the visitation parking lot, that's where our Civil War veterans are from. So what they do is they took half of them and buried them at Soldiers Rest at Oak Ridge, and the other half went to Calvary up in Calhoun. So they did move every one of them. And that happens with veterans and non-veterans.
So this website has to have some kind of
Ongoing.
terminology to allow for all of these variations.
I need an IT person for that,
Yeah.
setting that up.
Some kind of ongoing oversight. Yeah. We'll deal with that.
So if we want to receive the reports, or do you have a motion ready maybe?
I move that we accept the report as submitted.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Along that line, a little follow-up on our gentleman that we've been working on for, I don't know how long now, to get his name on the front memorial out here, who is, we've determined is a Bay City person, and he doesn't have any family left in the area, but there's some church members that either Trinity Episcopal or First Pres, I can't remember one of the two. We have identified somebody to do it. I don't know what the problem is putting engravings on stones anymore, but we've had a lot of trouble. I've identified this person. The problem, he's not on the vendor list with the county yet. He has to fill out paperwork. He's been a little slow getting the paperwork, so I'm still working on it, but we have identified a person to do it, and hopefully it'll be done before it gets snowing and real cold and windy. Then we'll have a ceremony. At least the church members can come down if we can't get the family members to come in to identify him. And I don't have his name right offhand, but we've got all the paperwork on it, so that'll be another one for the front. And also along that line, there is a resolution today on the county board agenda called Operation Green Light. I first saw this at the National Association of Counties meeting, I think it was in February, and it's to encourage counties and parishes and boroughs to recognize Operation Green Light for veterans. And by doing that, we would designate October through Veterans Day this year, time to salute and honor the service and sacrifice of our men and women. And by doing that, we would encourage citizens in patriotic tradition to recognize the veterans by displaying a green light in the window of their place of business or residence. I know there's been other blue light and, different type of thing, but that would be like October through November. It'll be on the agenda today, I imagine. It'll be passed, and it's a nationwide project called Operation Green Light. So look for something, maybe a write-up in the paper or a story on that. So, we do have Veterans Day coming up. I have a question. Who puts flags out? Do we put flags out Veterans Day for everybody, or?
No.
Because we do at our cemetery, and I just realize that everybody else does, but we do Veterans Day and Memorial Day at our cemetery.
We only do, Oak Ridge, we only do Memorial Day.
Yeah, Memorial Day.
Yeah, because it's a challenge in November with the leaves blowing around, because some of the markers are down below the ground, so that, I'm sure I will be doing it. We do get the school children to come out, we talk a little bit about Veterans Day and the history of that, and then they come out to help us put the flags in, so it's a little historical thing for them also. So we will be doing that. Then we have some new flags, by the way. I got a new box of flags, so. I was just looking at the minutes from the last meeting. We've been working on this project for a while about indigent and emergent, and trying to get some definition, and I haven't received anything yet from the attorney. We have our contracts all settled now, I believe, for the
Yeah, all of them are set.
the employment contract, so maybe hopefully, I'm thinking we'd meet again in December, unless we have something that comes up before.
How long have we been waiting on this? Isn't this like over 2 years? Didn't we start this when we first started this board?
There's somebody who's in charge of the attorney here, which is with us
Who does
here.
the attorney work for?
He can have a general conversation.
Yeah, Amber.
She's been busy. There's been a lot of things going on, with the pandemic and the contracts and trying to drop all those contracts for the ARPA money, so, but maybe we can
That has been difficult,
Yeah.
challenge.
We'll shoot for December. Now, the problem is that the state still hasn't really helped us along. There's been no legislation. We've talked to the Speaker of the House, who's not going to be the Speaker of the House anymore, and then he was a veteran, about trying to update some of the 1898 and 1900 verbiage. that talk about indigent and what that definition is and what emergent is, so there's been really no defining thing from the state, so I guess it's up to us to decide what we're gonna go with, but we need to follow the law also, so hopefully by December we'll work on that.
Of which year?
Oh, I didn't say that. Then the other thing, that Valley Garden Club, so I was contacted also with the Vietnam Vets Group. We talked about that a little bit last time. The Iwo Jima Memorial's in place. Their project is, and I can't remember what the amount is they want to raise, but it's going to be like a memorial garden around that area in the Chancellor Arboretum. So they are doing fundraising. I know our VVA chapter, who has some money on hand, made a donation. I think it was like $1,000 or so. So there's different levels of giving that you can get to the Valley Garden Club. So if any of your service organizations are approached by them, you might think about, looks like it's going to be a nice garden. And then the name we talked about, and somebody had a challenge coin last time. Those are always popular. I guess Charles Campbell has a challenge coin to give to people to pass along to other people. And it was tabled to the next meeting, by the way. Yes, we did table that.
Yeah,
So
he uses them exclusively at funerals.
yeah.
He gives one to the funeral.
So were you looking for funding for it, or did you got funding for it then?
Well,
I'll read that.
you want me to give you the story behind it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we thought it would be a nice idea, given the number of veterans who were passing away. And so I worked with these people that I've worked with in the past, and we crafted a real nice chaplain-oriented challenge coin. It's got the poppy on it, it's got the rod and staff on it from Psalm 15, I guess. Real nice coin, and bought several hundred, and he went through them all one at a time at funerals during COVID. So we bought a whole bunch more, and I did this at my personal expense, okay? Something I believed in, and I wanted to work with the chaplain on this. But this is not Tim Eckstein's project, okay? This is a community project, and I think that someone other than me should take ownership of it.
I think our BVA might be interested in, maybe
Yeah.
give us a little write-up on it, and I'll take it back.
Yeah.
We are so the problem with the VVA is, we're all getting old, and the VVA has decided not to merge into another group, not to, morph into a Legion or whatever, so our chapter is dwindling down a bit, so we're looking at ways to spend our money a little bit, spend it down, and we're not doing fundraising anymore either, so we'll have that bottle of fine wine or champagne or whatever at the last
Last
meeting,
man standing?
whatever that might be. There was another thing on here about so this is the 40th anniversary of the wall, the Vietnam Wall, so there'll be ceremonies on the 11th of November. They usually have the ceremony in the afternoon, usually around 1 o'clock at the wall. And they usually read the names of all the 50,000 plus on the wall. So that'll be done again before that. If anybody's out in DC, we've had trips out there before, but not planned this year. And we did do the POW MIA ceremony for the River of Time this year. We had pretty good turnout for that. So, any other items to come before us at this time? Old business, new business, miscellaneous. Oh, Camp Lejeune, we talked about that, about veteran services. I don't know if Gary's got any updates on Camp Lejeune claims and this Gulf War syndrome and...
The new PACT Act that was just signed by President Biden is going to be big for a lot of veterans. It's reaching out to whole different combat zones and different diseases, causes, so it's going to be a couple examples is Johnston Island Atoll island out in the Pacific, storage tanks for Agent Orange nuclear weapon testing site. So they're going to now be eligible as a presumptive.
Yeah.
Camp Lejeune, you're seeing all these ads on TV. That's just the lawyers trying to get in your pocket and
Yeah.
get some money, but what the veteran doesn't know, if they get on board with an attorney and they get an award, you possibly lose some of their benefits and not be able to recover that, so. And that, all this stuff's gonna start the 1st of January is when they're gonna start looking at all these PAC claims. But it's, the VA hospital, in fact, are hiring 2 more eligibility people just for the PACT Act, so it's gonna be busy. It's long overdue because there's a lot of guys that haven't been able to file a claim are now going to be able to, so it's gonna be big.
Be a lot of claims.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of people that were stationed there from 1980, what's the dates? It was like 20, 30 years. Yeah.
I think 57 to 85,
85,
something like that.
long
And
time.
plus their kids,
Yeah,
and
dependents.
it's gonna be large.
Thank you. Any other comments or reports? Otherwise, we are looking for a replacement for Marilyn, unless she changes her mind or run again. That'll be
Can't
the
talk into one more.
December meeting. We'll be sending out letters to the service organizations that they were looking for nominees from BLAV or Legion or, whatever. So, look for that. Otherwise, I don't have anything else. Motion to adjourn is always in order.
Move to adjourn.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Adjourned.